If you go on that business trip, we're done, she said. I woke up to my passport and laptop in the bathtub. I missed the flight, but called the police instead. The laptop was government property. She was arrested. She called from the county jail hours later begging me to drop the charges. I told her we're done and hung up. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. There are two things you need to know about my life to understand why I didn't scream when I saw what she did. First, I work as a senior cybersecurity consultant for a firm that contracts directly with the Department of Defense. I don't just have a job. I have a clearance level that took me 18 months, 3 polygraphs, and a background check that interviewed my third-grade teacher to acquire. My life is governed by protocols, non-disclosure agreements, and a very strict set of rules about where data can and cannot go. Second, I was dating Qley. Qley was the kind of woman who treated her emotions like weather events. Unpredictable, destructive, and everyone else's problem to navigate. We had been together for 2 years, and the last 6 months had been a slow descent into a hell of her own making. She had become paranoid. Not just, who are you texting paranoid, but tracking my location while I'm at the grocery store paranoid. She was convinced I had a work wife. She was convinced that my late nights were spent in bars, not in a windowless SCAF, sensitive compartmented information facility, debugging code that keeps satellites from falling out of the sky. The week leading up to the incident was unbearable. I had a mandatory compliance audit in DC. This wasn't a networking retreat with open bars and golf courses. This was 3 days of sitting in a conference room with federal auditors, justifying every line item in our budget and every security patch we deployed in the last fiscal year. Attendance was mandatory. Missing it wasn't just a bad look. It was a breach of contract. I was packing my bag in the bedroom on a Tuesday night. My flight was at 7 a.m. the next morning. Qley was standing in the doorway, drinking wine out of a coffee mug, watching me fold my shirts with a look of pure venom. "You're really going?" she said. It wasn't a question. "Qley, we've been over this," I said, keeping my voice level. I learned early on that raising my voice only validated her hysteria. It's the annual audit. If I don't go, I lose my contract. If I lose my contract, we lose the house. "You're going to see her," she snapped. "That intern. The one with the curly hair you mentioned one time 6 months ago. Lisa?" Lisa is 52 years old and works in HR in the Virginia office. "I'm not going to see Lisa. I'm going to see a guy named Agent Miller who has zero sense of humor and a lot of questions about encryption standards." She stormed over and kicked my suitcase shut. "I don't believe you. You think I'm stupid? I know how these business trips work. You go to the hotel bar, you take off your ring, and you pretend you don't have a girlfriend waiting at home who loves you." I took a deep breath. I was tired. I had been working 60-hour weeks to prepare for this audit. I'm not doing this tonight. I have to be up at 4:30. I reached for my laptop bag. This is important. Because of the nature of this specific trip, I had a checked-out government-issued laptop with me. It was a thick, ruggedized Dell, heavy as a brick, with a bright red asset tag on the lid that read "Property of U.S. Gov. Do not remove from authorized areas without Form 1442. It contained proprietary software and data that, if leaked or destroyed, would trigger a federal investigation. I placed the laptop bag by the door. "If you walk out that door tomorrow," Qley said, her voice dropping to that dangerous, trembling whisper she used when she wanted to be terrifying, "we are done. I mean it. If you choose that job over me, don't bother coming back." I looked at her. I saw the wine stain on her lip, the manic gloss in her eyes. I didn't feel love or even anger. I just felt exhaustion. "I'm sleeping in the guest room," I said. "We can talk when I get back on Friday." I grabbed my pillow and walked out. I heard her scream something about me being a gaslighting narcissist, followed by the sound of a glass shattering against the wall. I went into the guest room, locked the door, and set my alarm for 4:30 a.m. I fell asleep thinking that maybe she was right about one thing. We were probably done. But I figured we'd have a sad, crying breakup conversation on Saturday. I underestimated her. I underestimated how far a narcissist will go when they feel their control slipping away. My internal clock woke me up at 4:25 a.m., 5 minutes before my alarm. The house was silent, dead silent. The kind of silence that feels heavy, like the air pressure has dropped before a storm. I got up, stretched, and walked out into the hallway. I expected to see Qley asleep on the couch, or maybe the remnants of her wine-fueled rampage. But the hallway was clear. The door to the master bedroom was open. The bed was empty. A faint light was glowing from the master bathroom. I walked in, rubbing the sleep from my eyes, expecting to find her passed out on the bath mat or crying in the tub. She wasn't there. The bathtub was full. The water was still settling, which meant it had been filled recently. And at the bottom of the tub, submerged under 18 inches of water, was my life. My heavy, ruggedized government laptop was sitting at the bottom of the tub. Next to it was my passport. And floating on the surface, like a garnish on a cocktail of ruin, was my RSA security token, the digital key required to access the servers. For a second, my brain refused to process the image. It looked like an art installation. The little green power light on the side of the laptop flickered once, fizzed, and then died. In any normal relationship, a boyfriend would scream. He would run to the bedroom, shake his girlfriend awake, and yell, "What the hell is wrong with you?" He would fish the laptop out, try to put it in rice, and panic about the cost of replacement. But I didn't scream. I didn't even gasp. I went cold. Ice cold. The part of my brain that handles relationship drama shut down immediately, and the part of my brain that handles security breaches came online. I wasn't looking at a wet computer. I was looking at a felony. I was looking at the destruction of government property, the compromise of a secure asset, and a deliberate act of sabotage against a defense contractor. I didn't touch the water. That was rule number 1, preservation of evidence. I pulled my personal phone from my pocket. My hands were perfectly steady. I took a photo of the tub. I took a close-up of the red asset tag shimmering under the water. I took a video, panning from the door to the tub to show the scene was undisturbed. Then I turned around and walked out of the bathroom. I checked the bedroom. Qley was sound asleep in the guest room, the room I had vacated, curled up under the duvet, looking peaceful. She had swapped rooms with me at some point in the night, likely after she'd finished her work in the bathroom. She wanted me to find it. She wanted me to wake her up and beg. She wanted the drama. I didn't give it to her. I walked downstairs, put on my shoes, and went out to my car. I sat in the driver's seat and locked the doors. First, I called my company's facility security officer, FSO. It was 4:35 a.m. He answered on the second ring. "This is Carter," I said. "I have a code red situation regarding asset tag hashtag 499-22B. "Go ahead," he said. "No small talk. Asset has been maliciously destroyed. Submerged in water. The perpetrator is a civilian co-inhabitant. I have not touched the device. I am currently securing the perimeter." There was a pause. "Is the hard drive physically accessible?" "Unknown. The device is underwater." "Okay. Listen to me carefully," the FSO said. "Do not attempt to retrieve it. That hardware is property of the Department of Defense. If you touch it, you become part of the chain of custody issue. Call the police. Report it as destruction of federal property. Get a case number. I'm flagging your clearance status to suspended pending investigation immediately. You are not, I repeat, not to go on that trip. You are grounded until this is cleared." "Understood," I said. My career was effectively frozen. The trip was gone. The promotion was gone. I hung up the phone. Then, I dialed 911. 911, what is your emergency?" "I need to report a crime in progress," I said. My voice sounded robotic, even to me. "I have a situation involving the willful destruction of government property and felony vandalism." "Is anyone injured, sir? Is this a domestic dispute?" "No one is injured," I said. "But the property in question is a classified workstation belonging to a defense contractor. The value exceeds the felony threshold. The perpetrator is still on the premises." "Okay, sir. Officers are dispatched. Are you in a safe location?" "I'm in my vehicle." I hung up and watched the sunrise reflect off my windshield. I thought about the text Qley had sent me 3 months ago when I got this contract. "I'm so proud of you, baby. We're going to build such a great life." I looked at the house. It didn't look like a home anymore. It looked like a crime scene. 10 minutes later, a cruiser pulled up. 2 officers stepped out. They looked bored, expecting a shouting match between a couple of hungover lovers. I stepped out of the car, my hands visible, my demeanor calm. "Officer," I said, "the suspect is asleep upstairs. The evidence is in the master bathroom. I can let you in." Sir, usually these things are civil matters, the older officer said, hitching up his belt. If she broke your laptop, you take her to small claims court. It's not my laptop, I said, looking him dead in the eye. It belongs to the United States government. And under 18 U.S. Code Section 1361, willful depredation against any property of the United States is a federal offense punishable by up to 10 years in prison. The hardware alone is worth $5,000. The software license is worth $20,000. The officer stopped chewing his gum. He looked at his partner. The boredom vanished. Show us, he said. I unlocked the front door and led them up the stairs. The house was still silent. We walked into the bathroom. The water had settled completely now, crystal clear. The red sticker on the laptop seemed to glow. Property of U.S. Gov. Jesus, the officer muttered. He keyed his radio. Dispatch, we're going to need a photographer and a supervisor out here. We've got a situation. At that moment, I heard the guest room door creak open. Babe. Qley's voice drifted down the hall, sleepy and soft. Is that you? Did you decide to stay? She walked into the hallway, rubbing her eyes, wearing one of my t-shirts. She saw me standing there. A smug, victorious smile started to form on her lips. She thought she had won. She thought I had missed my flight to fight for her. Then she saw the two uniformed officers standing behind me. The smile died. What's going on? She asked, her voice trembling. Why are there cops here? Ma'am, the officer said, stepping around me. Step away from the bedroom door and keep your hands where I can see them. It's just a prank, she stammered, looking at me, her eyes wide with sudden terror. I was just making a point. Tell them, babe. Tell them it's just a stupid computer. I didn't say a word. I just watched. The professional had taken over. She wasn't my girlfriend anymore. She was a security threat that had been neutralized. Ma'am, I'm going to ask you one time, the officer said, his thumbs hooked into his vest. He wasn't aggressive, just matter of fact. Did you place the laptop and the other electronic devices into the bathtub? Qley looked at him, then at me, then back at him. She let out a frantic, incredulous laugh. Yes, but you don't understand. He was going to leave. He was putting his job before me. I had to make sure he stayed home so we could talk. She turned to me, her face twisting into that familiar mask of victimhood. Baby, tell them. Tell them it's just a work computer. We can buy a new one. I'll pay for it out of my savings. I didn't move. I held my phone up, recording everything. I can't talk to you, Qley. Why are you being like this? She screamed, stomping her foot. It's water. It's just water. The officer sighed. He pulled a pair of handcuffs from his belt. The metallic clink was the loudest sound in the room. Qley Miller, the officer said, stepping forward. Turn around and place your hands behind your back. Qley froze. What? No, you can't arrest me. I live here. This is a domestic dispute. This is a felony investigation regarding the destruction of government property, the officer said, grabbing her wrist. You just confessed to the act. Turn around. Ow. You're hurting me, she shrieked as he spun her around. She looked at me, her eyes wild with betrayal. Carter, stop them. Do something. You're really going to let them take me to jail over a laptop? I looked at her through the screen of my phone. It's not my laptop, Qley. I told you. It belongs to the Department of Defense. You didn't break my toy. You destroyed federal property. I love you, she wailed as they marched her out into the hallway. I did this for us. To save us. I followed them down the stairs, maintaining a 6-foot distance. My heart was pounding, but my face was stone. I watched as they walked her out the front door. The neighbors were starting to peek out of their blinds. Mrs. Gable across the street was on her porch in her bathrobe. They pushed Qley into the back of the cruiser. She was sobbing now, that ugly, gasping cry she used whenever she realized her tantrums weren't working. The second officer stayed behind with me. We're going to need you to come down to the station to give a formal statement, sir. And we'll need to bag the electronics as evidence. Do you have a secondary container for them? I have a static shield bag in my home office, I said. I can get it. Good. The officer looked at me, shaking his head slightly. Hell of a way to start a morning. She really didn't know what that thing was. She knew, I said quietly. She just didn't think the rules applied to her. I watched the cruiser pull away. I felt a strange sensation in my chest. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't relief. It was the feeling of a heavy, suffocating weight being lifted off my lungs. But the worst part wasn't over. The legal system was just getting started, and I was about to find out that the laptop wasn't the only thing she had been hiding. The next 6 hours were a blur of bureaucracy. I gave my statement. I watched a forensic tech photograph the bathtub. I handed over the soggy remains of the laptop in a sealed evidence bag. By the time I got back home, it was 2 p.m. My phone had blown up. My boss, the FSO, and HR had all called. The verdict was swift. I was suspended without pay pending the outcome of the investigation. My security clearance was flagged for review. In the world of defense contracting, that's a death sentence. Even if I was cleared, the risk associated with my home life might be enough for them to revoke my access. She had nuked my career, just like she threatened. I walked into the house. It felt contaminated. I couldn't sit down. I needed her gone. Not just physically. She was already in a holding cell, but I needed her presence gone. I grabbed a box of heavy-duty trash bags from the kitchen and marched upstairs. I wasn't going to be nice about packing. I wasn't folding her sweaters. I was shoveling her life into black plastic sacks to leave on the curb for her mother to pick up. I started in the bedroom. Clothes, shoes, makeup, it all went in. I was fueled by a cold, efficient rage. I went to the nightstand to clear out her drawer. I dumped it upside down into the bag. Lotions, hair ties, and old receipts fell out. And then, thud, her iPad landed on the carpet. It was an older model she used for reading and watching Netflix. She usually kept it in her purse, but she must have left it charging overnight. The screen cracked slightly on impact, but it lit up. I paused. I knew her passcode. It was the year of her birth. I shouldn't have looked. I should have just thrown it in the bag. But I remembered what she screamed at me as she was being arrested. I was scared you were cheating. I did this to save us. It gnawed at me. The projection. The sheer, irrational paranoia. I typed in the code. The iPad unlocked. It was already open to iMessage. My stomach dropped. There was a thread at the top, active as of last night at 11:30 p.m. The contact name was Mark Jim. I opened it. I sat down on the edge of the bed. I read the messages, and suddenly, the last 6 months of her paranoia made perfect sense. Qley, 10:15 p.m. He's packing. He's definitely going. Mark, so you're free tomorrow night? Qley, no. I can't let him go. I know what he does on these trips. He's going to hook up with someone. I can feel it. Mark, LOL. You're crazy. Let him go so you can come over. Qley, I can't. If he cheats, I look like an idiot. I'm not going to be the wife waiting at home while he has fun. Takes one to know one, right? Mark, babe, you're cheating on him with me right now. Who cares if he goes? Qley, it's different. I do it because he's emotionally unavailable. He does it because he's a pig. I'm shutting it down. He's not leaving this house. I'm going to make sure he stays. Mark, don't do anything psycho. Qley, watch me. I stared at the screen. She wasn't afraid I would cheat because I had given her a reason to be suspicious. She was afraid I would cheat because she was cheating, and in her twisted, narcissistic worldview, everyone else had to be as rotten as she was. She didn't destroy my career to save our relationship. She destroyed it to level the playing field. She couldn't stand the idea of me having freedom because she knew what she did with freedom. I didn't feel angry anymore. I felt vindicated. I took screenshots of the entire thread. Then, I forwarded them to my own phone. Then I saw a new message pop up on the iPad screen. It was from her mother. Mom, Qley, I just got a call from the jail. They're saying bail is $25,000. What is going on? Call me. Carter isn't answering. I looked at the message. Then I looked at the block contact button. I didn't block her mom. Instead, I sent her a photo. I sent the screenshot of the conversation with Mark where Qley admitted to cheating and planning to sabotage my trip. I added a simple caption. She's in jail because she committed a felony. She did it because she was cheating on me and projected her guilt onto my job. Do not contact me again. Her things will be on the curb in 30 minutes. Then I tossed the iPad into the trash bag, tied it shut, and dragged it downstairs. My career might be in ruins, but my conscience was clean, and I was about to have the most satisfying phone call of my life. My phone rang at 4:45 p.m. I was sitting at my kitchen island, surrounded by cardboard boxes. I had spent the last 2 hours methodically packing the rest of her life into them. I had already emailed my landlord to explain the situation and requested a lock change. I had already spoken to a lawyer about an emergency eviction order to ensure she couldn't return to the property if she made bail. The caller ID didn't say Qley. It read, Inmate Call, County Correctional Facility. I stared at it. I took a sip of black coffee. I accepted the call. Hello. Carter. Her voice was small, shaky, and wet. She had been crying for hours. Carter, oh my God, please. You have to help me. It's horrible in here. There are people yelling. It smells like bleach and sweat. Please. I can't help you, Qley, I said. My voice was flat. I wasn't trying to be cruel. I was just stating a fact. Yes, you can, she sobbed. My mom called a lawyer. He said that if the victim refuses to cooperate, the DA usually drops the case. You just have to tell them it was a mistake. Tell them I slipped. Tell them it was an accident. I closed my eyes and rubbed the bridge of my nose. You still don't get it. I am not the victim. What? I am not the victim, I repeated, enunciating every word. The United States government is the victim. I am just the custodian of the asset you destroyed. I filed the report because I am legally obligated to. I can't drop federal charges, Qley. The Department of Defense doesn't do backsies because you're having a bad day. But I'm your girlfriend, she shrieked, her voice cracking. I did this for you. I was terrified. I thought you were going to cheat on me. Right, I said. Let's talk about that. I picked up the iPad, which was sitting on the counter next to me. I found your iPad, Qley. I found the messages with Mark. The line went dead silent. The background noise of the jail, a distant slam of a metal door, a murmur of voices, filled the void. Carter, she whispered. The desperation was gone, replaced by pure fear. You weren't scared I was cheating, I said. You were scared that I was going to find out you were cheating. You destroyed my career, humiliated me, and got yourself arrested, all to keep me in the house so you wouldn't feel guilty about sleeping with a gym trainer. It didn't mean anything, she stammered. I was lonely. You work all the time. You're emotionally unavailable. You made me do it. And there it is, I said. I made you do it. Just like I made you drown the laptop. Please, she begged, her voice dropping to a whimper. My life is over if I get a felony. I'll lose my nursing license. I'll lose everything. Just tell them the iPad was. Tell them something. Help me. You calculated the risk, Qley, I said. You weighed your need for control against my livelihood. You just did the math wrong. You forgot to carry the consequences. Carter, please. I'm hanging up now. My lawyer will be in contact with your mother regarding the retrieval of your property. Do not call this number again. Wait. Carter. I love why. I tapped the red button. The silence that filled the kitchen was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. The fallout was messy, but not for me. My company's security division conducted a thorough investigation. They interviewed me, they reviewed the police report, and they analyzed the data from the destroyed laptop. The hard drive was encrypted and physically damaged, but the platter was intact enough to prove no data had been extracted. In the end, my immediate reporting of the incident saved me. The FSO wrote in his final report that my actions demonstrated unshakable integrity and adherence to protocol under extreme personal duress. Far from being fired, I became the poster boy for operational security. I didn't go on the trip to DC, but 3 months later, I was promoted to lead systems architect. The raise was significant. Qley wasn't so lucky. Because the dollar value of the laptop and the software license exceeded $5,000, and because it was government property, the DA didn't budge. She eventually took a plea deal to avoid federal prison time. She pleaded guilty to a lesser felony charge of destruction of government property. Her sentence was 3 years of probation, 500 hours of community service, and full restitution of the asset's value for $1,800, which she had to pay to the DOD. But the real punishment wasn't the money. It was the record. Qley was a nurse. You cannot hold a nursing license in our state with a recent felony conviction involving malicious destruction of property. The board revoked her license immediately. She went from making $80,000 a year to unemployed overnight. I didn't see her for almost a year. I had moved to a new apartment closer to the city, sold the house we shared, and blocked her on every conceivable platform. I ran into her by accident. It's always by accident. I was grabbing a coffee downtown before a meeting. I was wearing a suit, feeling good, checking emails on my phone. I ordered my usual black coffee. Carter. I turned. She was standing in line behind me. She looked diminished. That's the only word for it. The manic energy, the perfect makeup, the designer clothes, it was all gone. She was wearing jeans and a faded hoodie. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and she looked tired. Older. "Hello, Qley," I said. My pulse didn't even jump. I didn't know you lived down here," she said, clutching her purse. She looked at my suit. "You look good. You look successful." "I am," I said. She looked down at her feet. "I'm working at the retail store around the corner. Stocking shelves. It's hard. No one will hire me with the record." She looked up at me, her eyes wet. She was looking for sympathy. She was looking for me to say, "I'm sorry. That's terrible. You didn't deserve that." "I heard about the license," I said calmly. "That's unfortunate." "Unfortunate?" She let out a sharp, bitter laugh. "You ruined my life, Carter. You could have just told the cops it was an accident. You could have saved me. Instead, you watched them take me away." I picked up my coffee from the counter. I turned to face her fully. "I didn't ruin your life, Qley. You put a government asset in a bathtub because you were cheating and wanted to control me. You ruined your own life. I just filed the paperwork. I miss you," she whispered, a last-ditch attempt to manipulate. "Mark was a loser. He left the second I got arrested. I miss us." I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized I felt absolutely nothing. She wasn't an ex-girlfriend anymore. She was just a stranger with a bad resume. There is no us, Qley. There never was. There was just you, and the person you wanted me to be. I checked my watch. "I have to go. I have a meeting. Good luck with the stocking." I walked out of the coffee shop and into the sunlight. I didn't look back. I took a sip of my coffee, and it tasted perfect. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Lisa, the HR lady she was jealous of, who was actually a happily married grandmother. "Lisa, HR, your clearance review came back fully adjudicated. You're cleared for top secret again. Congrats, Carter." I smiled, put the phone in my pocket, and disappeared into the crowd. I had work to do. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.